want to talk about subtrusts. What are subtrusts and how do they work? So when a married couple create a trust, within that trust document, there's usually a provision that talks about what happens when the first spouse dies. And usually when the first spouse passes away, new trusts are created. And one of them will be called the survivor's trust. And the other one is usually called the bypass trust, but it can take on different names. And what happens is the assets are divided. So if everything's community property, then half the property goes to the survivor's trust. That's the survivor's share of the estate. And the other half goes to the bypass trust. That's the decedent's share of the estate. As for the survivor's trust, the surviving spouse has a right to change that trust, amend it, terminate it, do anything he or she wants with it. It's completely open, just like the main trust was when husband and wife were both alive. For the bypass trust, however, that becomes irrevocable, so it cannot be amended or changed during the surviving spouse's lifetime. But the surviving spouse still derives some benefits from the bypass trust. They can receive income and principal distributions to the extent that they need it for their health, support, maintenance, those sorts of things. But what they can't do is they can't amend it, usually, in order to change the ultimate beneficiaries. So if the bypass trust is supposed to go to the children, then that's kind of locked in once the first spouse dies. And that's the difference between a bypass trust and a survivor's trust. A survivor's trust can be changed and amended by the surviving spouse. Now, in more recent times, a lot of couples won't create these subtrusts. So when one spouse dies, the survivor will simply have control of all of the assets. And when that occurs, that means the survivor has the right to amend or change the plan, usually any way they want to. And so you can see that there's not a lot of protection in that type of a plan. So one of the benefits of using a bypass trust is to help the decedent spouse ensure that their intentions will go into place. So because the bypass trust can't be amended or changed, then the ultimate beneficiaries of the bypass trust have to remain the same even after the deceased spouse passes away. The other benefit of using a bypass trust is typically to save on estate taxes. But right now, with the estate tax exclusion amount, a little over $12 million per person, there's many estates that simply do not subject themselves to estate tax. And so they don't have to worry about that aspect of it. But even if you don't have estate taxes to worry about, you may want to worry about control issues to ensure that your share of the estate goes where you want it to. And this is particularly important when you have married couples who have kids from prior marriages, because wife's kids might be different from husband's kids or whatever the situation may be. And if you want to help your children maintain control of their share and ensure that they're going to get what they're supposed to, then a bypass trust can be a great way to ensure that the assets are safeguarded and protected for the children after one spouse dies. The surviving spouse can still derive benefits from that trust, but ultimately it's going to go where the deceased spouse wanted it to go. And that's the primary power of using a subtrust like a bypass trust. Albertson and Davidson is here to help you fight for your inheritance. Check out aldavlaw.com for our complete library of helpful legal videos and articles from your favorite California trust and will litigation law firm, Albertson and Davidson, LLP.